you should teach students to become AI media literate. I believe that can be something which has to be taught how to use AI. Make them also read books because I believe Netherlands is one country which is going back to textbooks, and some Scandinavian country they are going back to textbooks. Imagine that, and that's where you have to tell them how to use this the training of the platforms matters a lot, and that's where I believe the tech companies have to take that initiative where uh, they make sure that their platform itself is fair to everyone. Today's session is going to be very interesting because we are going to talk about AI and algorithms and how it's impacting content and how people are sharing content and how there are some restrictions on the content as well through the platforms which we use. And yes, it is also a challenge for teachers nowadays because what is happening is that students are getting projects which are made by AI, and then you have to evaluate those things. So we'll talk about how you can improve teaching in the end and how you can guide students when you are in the field of AI and algorithms. But mostly, since I am a journalism teacher, I will focus mostly on media and communication. So we'll break down the topic right from what is freedom of expression and what is AI and what are algorithms. Basically, freedom of expression is that fundamental component in a democracy which allows us to hold diverse opinions and express them. And it allows us to obtain information as well as communicate information and ideas without interference from public authorities. Now, this plays a very important part of a democracy because the purpose of a democracy is that where people can share their opinions freely, and based on their opinions we can draw conclusions, and from these conclusions we can make our decisions. So basically, freedom of expression is that right which uh, the Constitution has given us to express freely. And why this freedom is important for our society? Basically, it is that tool which allows us, as a society, as an individual, and the media to hold people in power accountable. So, this is that tool where you can question the authority. I am sure that most of you might be following the CJP protest and how it has uh, developed into a movement and it questioned the authority. And that's where freedom of expression plays a very important role because it is that freedom which allows you to make people accountable. And freedom of expression is a universal right, but it is especially crucial for journalists doing their duty, and this allows basically people to be accountable. And uh, this freedom allows us as well as journalists to share their opinions and belief. And as I said, freedom of expression is the foundation of a democracy because it allows citizens to be part of public life, hold people in power accountable, and most importantly, it helps us in making informed decisions. Now, freedom of expression protects ideas or opinions that may be controversial, disturbing, and shocking. And that right, I mean, it can be debatable. These all terms can be controversial to some people, it can be disturbing to some people, but it can be opinions and ideas of few people. And as a society, we have to be tolerant to divergent views. Now, what has happened in the past few years is that there is lack of tolerance to other people's views and opinions. And partly it is also because the algorithms are throwing us to the one side of the stories which we like to watch routinely. And that's where tolerance plays a very important role when you're uh, taking different opinions and views of people. Although you are free to say anything you want, our freedom to express or uh, the freedom of speech and expression has some restrictions, and we as teachers, students, journalists have to work within these restrictions. Basically, these restrictions in the constitution tell you what to what extent you can use this freedom. Basically, the first restriction which the Constitution gives you is that you cannot make speeches that threaten the unity in territorial integrity or the sovereignty of our country. And basically, you cannot make anti-India speeches. You cannot make speech that endangers the security of the state, incites rebellion, espionage, and armed insurrection. And uh, you cannot make speeches which affects the friendly relations with foreign countries. And we have seen in the past that how people in the helm of power made statements which affected our relations with other countries. And such kind of statements is not uh, uh, required in a democracy like us, especially by the citizens or anyone in the society. And your freedom should not disturb public order. It should not cause any kind of protest in the society as well. And you should be decent and moral in what you are sending across to the people. Apart from that, one of the main restriction is that you cannot interfere uh, with the authority of the court and the administration of justice. And you cannot write something against an ongoing case. And apart from that, defamation is something which normally our political leaders put against each other. So you cannot write something which defames a person's reputation. You cannot write, propagate content which makes people to incite an offense. So these are these eight reasonable restrictions which the Constitution of India includes. So, and now let's go on to what is an algorithm. So algorithm basically is a set of rules which the computer follows to make a decision. In this context, basically, these are the rules that decide what content has to be shown to you or hidden to you or ranked higher. Now, um, when we talk of ranking, the algorithm ranks few content uh, at the top, whereas it keeps the some content at the bottom in a decreasing order. So, so this will affect the visibility of that content, and how does it affect freedom? We'll see in our further discussion. And so basically, and also these algorithm also flag for removal. Now what are algorithms? Basically, these algorithms, they act as a filter, and it acts as a filter between the source of the information and the user. So it decides what information has to be shown to you, hidden from you, and it gives you the preference of the content by ranking them. And some algorithms even restrict content reaching to you. And this happens in social media platforms, search engines, and messaging apps. So what algorithm do is basically, the first function is that it recommends you the content by giving voices and opinions greater visibility. And by influencing speeches uh, by influencing those speeches which reach a larger audience. It also acts as a moderator. Now, the moderating part is a little bit uh, different, because sometimes it also over moderate things and regulates what content has to reach you. It also ranks your search results, basically showing you certain sources above others. And it also detects problematic problems, such as you might have encountered a lot of bot accounts which gives you false information. So these problematic patterns also it encounters, and it tries to eliminate such kind of content reaching to a different group of audience. Now, it also acts as a gatekeeper. Basically, it is a digital gatekeeper, and it decides what content people can see, share, discover, and thereby this influence the freedom of speech and expression, because it visibility on the platform matters a lot, and that plays a very important role in the freedom of expression. Now, coming to artificial intelligence, basically the artificial intelligence is the ability of computers to learn from data, recognize a pattern, and make intelligent decisions. Basically, what AI does, it's trying to replicate human intelligence. And unlike traditional software, AI basically improves its performance over time by learning from experience. And that's where we talk of machine learning, where over a time, um, AI is developing itself, and hence it is something which is not perfect, and it is in the development phase. And AI powers many digital platforms, as I told you, and it can analyze a vast amount of text data within seconds. It can complete tasks within seconds. It can play the role of assistance, or it can completely take out the task and give a final product. And in journalism and content creation, from the place where I come, AI assists with news gathering, writing, translation, verification, and multimedia production, which used to take a lot of time. So it has compressed the content creation time into few seconds. Now, how AI helps, basically it generates article through prompts. You just put a prompt and it will give you an article on a particular issue or a theme. It creates blogs, scripts, speeches, and captions. It creates images, videos, music, graphics from text prompt. It also assists in this production uh, roles like video editing, giving subtitles, and voice generation. It also enables small creators to compete with a large media organization. Now, because the cost has reduced, anyone can produce good mediated content which can reach a large amount of audience. And yeah, it also helps small businesses to reduce their cost, because now with the prompts you can create, modify, and share content. Now, this allowed, because of AI, there is a lot of democratization of content. Now people more people can create and publish ideas regardless of the economic background, because now anyone sitting on a high-end PC computer can generate good content and share their ideas, information, and opinions with the people. Now, coming to the positive roles of AI, AI acts as a facilitator for the freedom of expression. As I said, it has democratized content creation, it has reduced the cost of production, where in the old days, if you have to produce a newspaper or a tabloid or simple magazine, it used to take a lot of time. And now with prompts, you can design pages, you can write articles, and all the production roles have reduced. And so it has allowed a single person to produce an entire media product, whether it's print or even digital. And what it has done is that earlier we used to design or create something with our technical knowledge. Editors used to spend a lot of years. The graphic designers used to spend a lot of years knowing what design is. But now, if you put the content, give proper prompts, you'll design a page through uh, AI platform, and you don't need an expensive equipment to work with this. And individuals can create, and we did not do not require large production teams to communicate our ideas and information. So AI, as a facilitator of freedom of expression, also broke that language barrier. Now in India, we know that there are so many languages, and because it allows you this feature of real-time translation, people can convert any kind of text into the prominent languages which can be circulated. And it also allows voice translation, multilingual subtitles, AI dubbing, and basically speech to text, allowing regional journalists to publish local stories that can reach a national audience. So language is not a barrier to participate in public discourse anymore, because anyone can use the AI platforms to actually share information. Now, this also allowed in improved accessibility. Now, earlier, uh, uh, people with disability used to face some challenges, but now with the help of AI you get automated captions, you get screen readers, people uh, can recognize speech, and that speech can be converted into text or audio. You have voice assistants, you have text to speech AI platforms which convert your text to speech, and it also gives you image descriptions so that it can help visually impaired users. Now, with for example, students with visual impairment can use AI readers to access uh, textbooks. Now, with the few AI platforms that can convert these kind of textbooks into braille text, that helps people with visual impairments. And basically now people with disabilities can participate more equally in education, employment, and public discussions. Now, it is also given a voice to the marginalized voices. Now, recently, I have been to this uh, Deccan Development Society. Basically, it is a women self-help group trying to adapt digitization and convert their traditional analog television content into the mobile platform. And I have been teaching that community how to use mobile and AI basically to give their local content. So this is basically a Dalit community located in Zahirabad, a very prominent uh, self-help group which has its own community radio as well. So what AI is doing is it's giving a space for marginalized voices, because at one end there is low cost production which is happening, and the other end they have a platform where they can reach people, and reach people in different languages, because as such now you have auto generated titling which is coming on the video, so language does not play a major role. And these recommendation system also help them discover niche creators. So communities which were previously excluded from the mainstream media now have visibility because of AI. And AI also supports journalism, because now you don't have to do those mechanical tasks, because I was working in a newsroom and I used to get these Telugu copies to translate, and that used to take a lot of time. So now you can translate Telugu to English and edit it and polish the copy so that it can go for print. And then translation became very easy. You get the interview transcriptions of people. Now data, last set of data analysis, it becomes easy to analyze those data. And then you have assistance in fact checking, although some platforms have been criticized for uh, giving they are not able to give factual information. But when we are working with AI, whether it's education or journalism, we should always make sure that we get multiple sources of information, something which we in the journalistic term refer to as cross verification of information. So even in the field of, AI and algorithms, make sure when you are into teaching, when you are in journalism, you have to cross verify information, because it is not a perfect platform. It can make mistakes. It is in the development phase. And always remember this word called cross verification of information. And it also summarizes large documents. For example, if something is like economic survey is there, you have to understand that survey in 5 to 10 minutes, so that you can run your tickers on television. So that's where AI helps in summarizing large complex documents and data. And it also gives visualizations of large data set. Now, if you ask AI to describe something in a graphical or a diagrammatical representation, it will generate images for you. And that's where teachers can incorporate this technology, where they can simply ask the AI tool to explain some theory like spiral of silence, because spiral of silence is something where people become silent because of the dominant opinion in the society. So you can ask the AI platform to make a graphical diagram or explanation of that particular theory, model, or anything. So what this has reduced is that it has given more time for journalists to investigate stories and less on those mechanical repetitive tasks which they have to perform each and every day. Now AI can act as a creative collaborator, as well as it can take over the entire creative process, uh, where it can get you the final product with the prompts. In the production of any content, AI can collaborate with its user. For example, now if you give a student any kind of project, so right from the idea, right from their brainstorming, right from creating a particular content, they use the help of AI. And that's where, even in the field of content creation, what normally happens is that once the idea is out, and even for ideas some people go to AI, you use AI's help to brainstorm the task, to generate the story, to create any kind of graphic or any kind of music or film visualization. You can do storyboarding and all those things from with the help of AI. And now it is also giving you animated videos. We had a task given to our students to generate an animated video through AI explaining any concept from the syllabus, and they did a really good job using platforms like Gemini, ChatGPT. Hmm. So that's where it can assist you in the creative processes as well. And apart from that, AI also encourages you to learn from multiple perspectives. And this is only when you have a well-designed AI systems that can recommend books, research papers, government reports, article from different people. So I think Gemini is doing right now, where it is making sure that you get the citations or the references from where they are getting that kind of content. And yes, that's where depending on single source is not that great when you are doing academic work and using a single AI platform. There are various platforms which you can use to create your PPTs, to create your summaries, to create your notes. There is Claude available right now. So these platforms gives you this multiple uh, pieces or sources of information which you can use. And for example, if someone is researching on uniform civil code, um, search for a platform which gives you different kinds of different sides of the story. And why it is important? Because it encourages critical thinking, and it reduces the risk of one-sided public debates, something which normally in the terms of AI and algorithms are referred as echo chambers, where we are only exposed to one kind of opinion, one kind of content, and whether it's religious, whether it's political, and that gives you one way of thought. And people nowadays are becoming very aggressive in accepting the other point of view, and this kind of thing should not happen. uh, that's where you select a platform like Claude, Gemini, which gives you that kind of different source or different viewpoints to one particular piece of information. And AI also supports media literacy, because what is media literacy? Basically, uh, it is the ability of the consumer or the user to understand what kind of information he is uh, consuming, whether it's a rational choice, and whether he is getting information which is not authentic. So he decides, he understands, and he assimilates uh, those messages which is with his critical thinking. And basically, through AI, you can identify misinformation. And basically, to the basic tool to identify misinformation is go to different sources of information, go to the sites where this kind of information is available, go verify it with different sources of information, basically different sites. And it can also help you in understanding manipulated images. Nowadays, the there is lot of synthetic things which are coming out, and that's where AI through its models can identify what is a deep fake, what is a manipulated heading, I mean manipulated image, what are these misleading headlines. I remember during the COVID period, the Chief Minister of Telangana criticized news portal, which is, I think, I am not sure which, but a big site which declared that Telangana government has declared a ban through their headlines. So this kind of misleading headlines can also be detected, and you can also detect fake social media posts, because now you have different bot accounts which try to target opponents, and that's where they criticize people, they try to throw muck at them, and that's where AI can also help in knowing that kind of fake content. So people who can recognize misinformation are less likely to spread false information and more likely to contribute responsibly to public discussion. And that's where media literacy plays a very important role. And when we talk of AI and algorithms, everything is not perfect about it. So, yeah, there are good things and bad things to AI as well as algorithms. Basically, it creates a false positive. Now, what is a false positive, uh, and what is a context deficit? Because uh, even though if a content is legally okay, the AI models try to flag it as something which is harmful, something which cannot be circulated, and it tries to reduce the visibility, and outrightly sometimes it stops the content based on its own policy. So even though if the content is right, because of its policies, because of its methodology, it tries to block that content. During the COVID period, uh, the platforms like Facebook blocked satirical posts and memes on the COVID-19 pandemic, and basically it also does not understand the context. So every message is uh, has a particular context, and that it failed to analyze during the COVID period. So it struggled to recognize humor, sarcasm, and what it did was, one of the posts during the COVID pandemic, it this post is basically a meme, and it restricted that post because it had a preset algorithm which decided that misinformation cannot be circulated on COVID, and this meme was blocked. So these are the checks and balances which it has, and so it did not understand that this is a satirical post, and it is not something which is given to the public to inform them or to educate them. And that's where it said that misinformation could cause a physical harm to the public, and it restricted this post. And apart from that, yeah, people also fear uh, putting things out because of these penalties which the governments, the state sets on the AI platforms. Now, this leads to some kind of censorship where the content is blocked from the platform because they fear that some kind of action the government takes. And this in turns cause a chilling effect to the users also, because they will stop making posts that will offend the authority, that will offend the reach of the platform and their reach in their audience. So they uh, try to keep the bosses happy, And apart from that, uh, the one of the negatives is also that some platforms are based on English, and this is a language bias towards vernacular languages, and it subscribes to Western cultural norms. Consequently, content moderation tools perform um, significantly lower accuracy in regional language and non-Western context. So basically, these models are trained predominantly on English data sets and Western culture norms. So they don't understand the non-Western context, and they don't accurately understand regional languages. And basically, algorithms also throttle the reach of any kind of content. So, freedom of expression online is no longer just about the technical ability to post content. So, now anyone can post content. It is basically determined on how uh, it reaches a lot of people. And sometimes algorithms may help you reach the niche audiences, but it also makes sure that in some cases your content does not reach people. It also does shadow banning. Platforms use automated systems to demote or restrict the reach of specific viewpoints or political opinions without explicit notification or due process. Basically, they don't tell you that why uh, your viewpoint, why your opinions don't reach people. So this system is like some third person who's sitting there and deciding for your opinions and views. And this has been programmed as such. Apart from that, it also has this censorship placed inside. Basically, in many countries, uh, including our Asian countries, there are legal frameworks that obligate digital platforms to deploy machine learning algorithms to rapidly scrub disfavored political, regional, uh, and social opinions, because the platform is rigged so that some kind of opinions does not uh, reach the public, because no authority wants opinions which are against their behavior and conduct in the society. And that's where these algorithms are rigged so that they can benefit people in power. And and they also make sure that there is sophisticated AI surveillance tools that can uh, uh, trawl social media at scale to identify dissent. So basically, there is some kind of surveillance also in place which can identify dissent in the society, which can identify anti-government sentiment. And when the state gets involved, it tries to place all kinds of restrictions on things which are not favorable to them. And yeah, now other thing which I want to highlight is that uh, bad actors and state sponsors also troll the use of generative AI to scale up disinformation campaigns and target opponents in politicals and politics and in civic society. So basically, they also use AI to spread disinformation against their political opponents and people in the civil society. And there is some kind of liar's dividend. So what happens is that you might have observed generally in the politics, there are things which happens and they claim that it is an AI generated video. So that is the common response which you get nowadays from politicians, because if any wrongdoings they are committing, and that is visible in a video form or even an audio form, they simply say that this is not me. uh, it is created through AI. And this basically uh, creates some kind of discord in terms of uh, uh, thinking of what is truth and what is not in terms of the audience, and that's where people lie that it is AI created. And there are various over restrictive regulatory frameworks also, basically uh, telling these tech companies that you have to remove this content within a certain frame of time. Otherwise, you are going to face legal battles, and this also happens in India. Basically, earlier, to remove some kind of content, there was a time frame of 36 hours where uh, you can decide whether a content is good or bad. Now, based on that, has been reduced to 2 3 hours, and this reduction of time is basically against freedom of speech, because you cannot evaluate some kind of content in that less period of time, because uh, the I mean, it is restrictive to the individual, and that's where these tech companies fear that because of some kind of action the government is going to take against them, they have to remove such kind of harmful content. And apart from that, now let's go into the impact of algorithms on freedom of expression. I know that we have a very tight schedule. As such, the topic is very big. So basically, algorithms have both positive impact as well as negative impact. In the positive impact, it allows people to discover new creators, new ideas, information that they might have never found on their own. And apart from that, it also uh, gives independent creators an opportunity to reach a large niche or audience. At the same time, algorithms can reduce the visibility of certain content, ranking it lower in search results or news feeds, making it difficult for people to find. So there is a dichotomic here, because you can actually be discovered, as well as it can also reduce your visibility based on the user engagement, uh, on based on the user engagement in the terms of likes, shares, and comments. And it has also democratized publishing, where now anyone can create and publish content. Earlier, if you are in the traditional media space, you required a team of people who can help you in publishing. Now anyone can publish anything, and this success is no longer limited to those who own traditional media platforms. However, in this space, private tech companies control the algorithms that determine which content becomes visible, giving them enormous influence over public discourse. And this influence of tech companies over the discourse is called as platform gatekeeping. Gatekeeping is a concept where uh, a mediator regulates the content between the source and the user. Yeah. And algorithms also allow personalized information. Now, if you are interested in cooking, so if you are on Instagram, the algorithm throws personalized cooking videos to you, and basically it develops your interest into that particular area. But when it comes to information, when it comes to opinion building, and when it comes to the public life, political life, it also creates this echo chambers where you are constantly bombarded with one side of the story, and where you see only one kind of opinion views being shared to you. Now what this has led is that it gives less space for alternative opinions. People actually become aggressive, especially the kind of things which has happened post 2014, where the new government was elected, and where the entire space of media as well as information has become divided. And this space of was basically uh, polarized, and algorithms also played a very important role in polarizing the entire discourse. And that's where the concept of echo chamber plays a very important role, where people are continuously bombarded with one kind of information, and they stick to that kind of information, and they disregard the alternative opinion or views coming to them. And and it also promotes education. Basically, algorithms make educational content more accessible by recommending tutorials, lectures, online courses, and fast checking resources. Now, if you are doing research and if you are interested in some kind of topic, let's say the impact of violence in cinema on kids, so you basically can ask the algorithms or the AI search models to get you information on this particular topic. It will give you different kinds of sources. You can ask them to give you lectures, online courses, etc. and all. And apart from that, yes, the platform, the algorithms also amplify misinformation. For example, let's take some sensational news which is coming out. So without verifying it, because of the engagement through that particular kind of content in terms of the likes, views, and the shares, it can amplify this misinformation. And yeah, yeah. And it also encourages safe online spaces where the algorithms help create safer online environments. And apart from that, it also does over moderation. Over moderation is where the system itself moderates the entire space and decides what kind of content should stay and what kind of uh, content should remove, which is one of its drawback. It's also helps in building a community. Algorithms connect people with similar interests. Same again, the Instagram experience. And this algorithm, it also strengthens collective participation and public engagement. Again, think of the CJP movement where a lot of youth came together, and mostly it was through social media campaigns. Yes, there is E20 thing also happening, but what it does is that is builds a community of people who are of the similar interest. And yeah, and apart from that, there is a lack of transparency which happens. Users often do not know why certain content is recommended, hidden, or removed, because these platforms don't disclose how these algorithms work. And my final note is that basically, artificial intelligence has transformed freedom of expression by making communication faster, accessible, and more inclusive. Today, individuals can create, translate, edit, and publish content with minimal cost or technical expertise, allowing diverse voices to participate in public discourse. However, expression in the digital age is shaped not only by AI but also algorithms that determine what content is recommended, ranked, amplified, suppressed, or removed. As digital gatekeepers, algorithms influence whose voices are heard and who remain invisible. While AI and algorithms can promote creativity, accessibility, education, and democratic participation, they can also contribute to misinformation, algorithmic bias, over moderation, echo chambers, and reduced visibility of legitimate speech. Therefore, freedom of expression in AI era is no longer concerned solely with the right to speak. It also depends on fairness, transparency, accountability, and ethical governance of the technologies that shape public discourse. The challenge for democratic societies is to ensure that technological innovation strengthens rather than restricts the fundamental right to freedom of expression. And before ending, I would say that the technology as such is not perfect, and I think that we need to give it a few more years for it to develop. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And one more thing now, let's talk about the education aspect now. I have been in the field of education from 11 years right now, and the challenge which most of the teachers are facing nowadays is that we have a class of 50 to 60 minutes, and what AI for a person who's teaching production and uh, technical aspects of communication, AI has collapsed the time period of bringing out content. I mean, now when I go into a graphic design class, designing a poster or a newspaper, uh, the time required to create such things have reduced, and explaining students the entire process has become difficult because they nowadays question that why do we need to take a camera, shoot a scene, when the entire thing can be done with the help of a single prompt. So for teachers, basically it is very important to realize that rather than focusing on the technology, we should mostly focus on the concepts which uh, have existed before the technology. Yes, the technology has given us a tool which makes things cheaper, but you need to explain that yes, if you have to make a film, you have to first know how to write a story, how to do scripting. So you have to drag the concepts which you are teaching in your classrooms. That's what I do for my video production classes, the video editing classes, my graphic design classes, so that they realize that there is more than just creating things in a fraction of seconds, and you have to learn those things which give you a better output. And that's what is my suggestion. Try to drag the entire process of education in your classrooms, and make them understand that yes, there is a tool which makes your job very easy, but there are things which will help you to improve whatever you are doing. And that's what I suggest in this session. Yeah.
Like you already mentioned about democratization of content. So while AI and the newest technology are said to be democratizing content, do you think there is a homogeneity in the content they make, in the ideas this AI or the new technology provide? Because as a teacher, you might be able to reflect on this better because you every time you analyze a student's answer or a student's assignment, you might see that homogeneity in their answers because most of the students nowadays use ChatGPT or Gemini for their exams or doing activities. So, what is your take on this?
Yes, some platforms they actually homogenize content, especially if you see Chat GPT, it does that. And I see whenever I give them a written assignment or something, they get that same kind of content. So what I'll suggest is that you expose the students to different platforms as well. You expose them to how you have to source different kinds of information, and most of it you make sure that they get into platforms which give them this kind of different information. I believe Claude is one such kind of platform which is good for students because it actually gives you the sources of information. And what do you do when one person actually uh, gets that text from the AI, and all of them they reproduce that kind of text? So evaluation itself also becomes very difficult. But you should treat I mean teach students to become AI media literate. I believe that can be something which has to be taught how to use AI, and that's where make them also read books, because I believe Netherlands is one country which is going back to textbooks, uh, and some Scandinavian country they're going back to textbooks. Imagine that. And that's where you have to tell them how to use this platform. That would be my suggestion, because we are research scholars as well, and we actually don't think in terms of AI when it comes to our research. Uh, and we think of reading books, reading journals. So yeah, we also have to think of going back to books and uh, these textbooks which students were used provided, and that would be my suggestion.
Okay, sir. Thank you for that. Another question I would like to ask is about you mentioned the fact checking thing. So, when using AI, what are the first steps to ensure that bias or misinformation doesn't get into content being created?
Yeah. Yes, I mean, that first of all, the training of the platforms matters a lot, and that's where I believe the tech companies have to take that initiative where they make sure that their platform itself is fair to everyone. And uh, this has been a issue for a long because uh, that the platform grok was insensitive to some communities, and that's where this issue of training the algorithm came out in the open. And yeah, again, what I suggest is that when it comes to um, showing of different groups or opinions of different group, my suggestion will be is that you make students go into different platforms. You cannot rely on one single AI platform to give you the right kind of information, because as such the platform itself is in the development and training phase, and it can make mistakes in representation of different groups, different opinions, and etc. So train them to get into different sourcing of information, not relying on one platform, which most of them do right now. Yeah.
So, and is it advisable to not entirely depend on algorithmic content and use original source for research and content creation?
I mean, again, in sourcing also, you should know which source gives you the right kind of information, which journal, which newspaper, which book. They can refer to NCRT books. So that sourcing also plays a very important role, because you know the state of newspapers right now, and you know how kind of, I mean, what kind of interface they have where they are running on limited staff. And that's where you should tell them that you go for the right kind of information sources. For example, Hindu can be a good source of information, the Indian Express. So that those things have to be taught. And that's where it is very important that you make students also media literate, so that they know which source is giving the right kind of information for their career and knowledge growth.
Yeah, so we have a question from Deepti Sharma. Which fields do we need to introduce at the initial level?
Which? Can you repeat?
Field. Which field do we need to introduce at the initial level?
Field has such. I mean, basically, you have to teach them right from the basic things. I mean, what a model is, what does a model do, and how model collects information, how it develops itself, how it is trying to replicate human intelligence. So all these things have to be taught from the scratch. I hope that is what the field which you are referring to.
Yes, sir. Yeah, there is another question from Haimandi. How to use AI for critical thinking based questions to help students understand the subject matter easily.
See, critical thinking is something which the students have to be taught, and when you are bringing AI into your thought process, I don't think that we can constitute itself as critical thinking. It is something where you analyze things, and what I suggest is that as teachers, you ask them to analyze any issue from different parameters or different factors. Ask them to analyze it through social factors, ask them to analyze to it to environmental factors, political, um, ecological, economical. So introduce these kinds of different elements to their thinking, so that they don't limit their world to only what is being represented through these AI models. And that's what I suggest.
Okay, sir. Do you think the state has become more powerful in curbing dissent? like preventing alternate voices with artificial intelligence, and thereby freedom of expression is being compromised.
Yeah, the state is very powerful, and now what is happening is that the state is holding these platform providers, what you call accountable for what other people are posting on their platforms, and that's where uh, it plays a very important role in restricting free speech and expression, because they see, uh, the state sees people of other opinion has a opponent, and in some cases they also treat them as enemies, and that's where they are successfully using these intermediary platforms to regulate such kind of uh, content, and content which is unpleasing to them. And yeah, the state has intruded in this right to freedom of speech and expression to certain level, because the platforms are not fair, and when the platforms are not fair, then uh, what you can do in terms of freedom of speech and expression, because dissent can be anytime uh, removed from these platforms.